I had this idea. It's not the best idea. I don't know. I think it's good. But, so if you're in Mr. Maui's AP World class, you know that the quarterly exam is coming up. And I study, but I get distracted easily and I procrastinate a lot. So last night I started with the first part, World War I. And I thought if I make this video, I not only help you, but I also double my study time. So it's a win-win situation here. So stick around and I guess watch. The thing here is the causes of World War I, which is mania. So it's militarism, alliance systems, nationalism, imperialism, and the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand. Okay, so first one was militarism, which is a country's emphasis of a strong military to defend or promote national interests. Second one was alliance systems, which was in World War I, was the Central Powers, which was Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy, just for examples. Those were the main ones. And the Allied Powers, which was Russia, France, Great Britain, and the U.S. The third one was nationalism, and it's a feeling of loyalty to one's country, and it's also advocacy of political independence for one's country. The fourth one was imperialism, which is a policy of extending the rule or authority of a nation over foreign countries or of acquiring colonies. And the last one was the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand, and I'll get into this more in a second. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand, if I'm saying that right, I don't know if I'm saying it right, was heir to Austro-Hungarian Empire. Because he wanted to make changes, he faced a lot of opposition. The Black Hand was a Serbian terrorist group that opposed the Archduke. They planned to assassinate Archduke Ferdinand in Bosnia while he was on the way to City Hall. This plan failed, and one of the 7 men involved threw a bomb and missed, distracting the others. After City Hall, though, the driver that was, driving Franz Ferdinand and his wife took a wrong turn, and because Gavrilo Princip, I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but he was part of the Black Hand, after he went and got a sandwich, he saw the driver, and he succeeded in murdering Franz Ferdinand and his wife on June 28th, 1914. The whole assassination set up this whole alliance system thing, so Austria-Hungary losing their Archduke was obviously angry, and they blamed Serbia because the Black Hand killed adds up, okay? And they made demands to Serbia, but Serbia refused. They're like, why do I have to answer to you, Austria? I don't even like you, man. Anyway, so then that led to Austria-Hungary declaring war on July 28th, and that whole war thing, it set off the alliance systems, and so Russia and the Slavic nations, they backed up Serbia, and Germany backed up Austria-Hungary, and to get to France, Germany invaded Belgium in 1914, but that set off the alliance system again and got Britain involved. It was like this big mess, all because the Archduke Ferdinand got assassinated. I think it's a very important thing to have memorized. I don't know. It's also really interesting. I don't know. Okay. So with trench warfare, we should know that the Western Front was a 600-mile stretch from the English Channel to Switzerland. And troops built trenches along the front, and very little ground was gained by either side. It was kind of like they were sitting there and just shooting at each other and not getting anywhere because you were too scared to leave the trench because you would be shot down immediately. And the living conditions in these trenches were horrible. Like, the dead bodies were piling up, wastes, and all that. I think Mr. Maui really emphasized the living conditions inside these trenches. World War I is considered the first war to make use of modern technology and machinery. Some of the machinery, like weapons and technology, included automatic machine gun, tank, submarine, airplane, poison gas, and gas mask. Unrestricted submarine warfare. Basically, you have to know that Britain used its navy against Germany to blockade it, right? And in response to that, Germany decided to blockade Britain. And unrestricted submarine warfare is basically sinking any ship that was going towards Britain in order to try and starve them into submission. This also included a ship being sunk that was full of American citizens, which pissed off the United States. Sorry to put it that way, but yeah. And it brought light to the war, or brought attention to the war, and the U.S. had negative feelings towards Germany anyway. And this isn't on the thing he gave us, but I think we should know it, even if it's just for the AP. But one of the major turning points of the war was the U.S. entry, and what caused the U.S. entry was basically the unrestricted submarine warfare. Germany issues the Sussex Pledge, which they promised that, oh, I promise I'll stop, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, they were lying. And in 1917, Germany uses the unrestricted submarine warfare on American ships this time, purposely, and they released the Zimmerman Note. And this is when the U.S. declared war on Germany, April 6, 1917, and they were a part of the Allies. Okay, so now we get into total war. I hit my hand out. Anyway, a total war is a war fought home and on the battlefield. I can't talk. Anyway, all of the nation's resources go into the war effort. So the government drafts men, they raise taxes, and they limit supply of goods at home for the war effort. And they used propaganda to promote a cause, to promote the war. I know propaganda is a separate little bullet on there, but I'm just going to kind of mix it in here. So propaganda promoted the war. It kind of shed a good light on the war, like, oh, fight in the war. They're trying to encourage people to be more involved in order to help the United States or help their country, whichever country you're in during this time. And oftentimes they glorified fighting in the war, making it seem like it's the best thing ever. But people die. It's scary. Like, it's not something to glorify. Okay, so now Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Basically, what you need to know is he was for peace and peace negotiations. He was trying to stop the war. He was the president of the United States during this time, if you did not know that. And it was basically a speech on, like, promoting foreign policy, I guess you could say, which is, like, talking about free trade, open agreements, democracy, all that stuff. And it comes up later on again, so just keep that in mind. I think it comes up in the League of Nations, because the League of Nations, that whole idea was Woodrow Wilson's 14th point, so you'll hear more about that later on. The Treaty of Versailles, 1919, it ended the war, World War I. It talked about reparations, which is compensation for war damage paid by the defeated country, or countries, defeated state, whatever. In this case, it was Germany. It included war guilt, which is basically they blamed Germany for the entire war, and Germany had to assume all responsibility for it. All the damages and stuff. Sorry if I'm not making much sense. Okay. And this was a humiliation for Germany, which also creates tensions for the Second World War, which we'll get into later on this week, or whenever I make that video. It also included the League of Nations, which was Woodrow Wilson's 14th point. I said it earlier. It was formed to resolve future international disputes, and it wasn't really successful. The U.S. never even really joined it, which is kind of funny because Woodrow Wilson was the president who... Anyway, you get the point. And Germany lost a lot of territory and military losses. They had restrictions on military. They couldn't make weapons anymore. They couldn't, get more land, that whole thing. And that sets up World War II as well. And my phone died, so I'm in my bed now. So that's it. I finished the video in time before my phone died, so that's great. And I'll see you whenever I make another video.